Hey, it's Shona, and today we're going to dive into a topic that is incredibly important for females who are running to, through, and long after menopause. There are countless hacks out there claiming to help, but not all of them are effective, and in fact, some of them are downright useless. So let's explore the 6 most common running and menopause hacks that you definitely should avoid. Menopause can bring about a whole host of challenges. And while there are many effective strategies to help manage these symptoms, many so-called hacks are not beneficial at all. Think of it like navigating through a maze. Not all paths lead to the exit. Today, I'll uncover these ineffective tips, why they are useless, and what you can do instead. First up, this one may just seem like you're saving time, but really it's just like baking a cake without preheating the oven. It's not going to turn out right, and actually things can go quite wrong. Skipping warm-ups and cool-downs increases your risk of injury, especially for menopausal females who require extra time to prepare and recover. A proper warm-up increases blood flow and prepares the muscles and tendons and joints for the action you're about to put it through. A proper cool-down restores the body back to its homeostatic state. At CoachPerry.com, I advocate for dynamic movements over static stretchings for your warm-up. The reason for this is, firstly, within the scientific literature, there is no correlation between static stretching and preventing injury. However, dynamic movements help move the joints and muscles within particular ranges of motion, all while preparing your body for that activity ahead, and it has also been shown to increase your power output for your activity compared to static stretching. Dynamic warm-ups are like pulling a bowstring multiple times to shoot your arrow as far and as accurately as possible. While static stretching is like pulling the bowstring back once, holding it there, not preparing the bow, which is like your muscles, for this rapid, constant activity of the release of the string. Some great dynamic exercises include leg swings, so forward and back leg swings. Those will focus on your hamstrings and your hip flexors and your glutes. Side to side leg swings, here we're focusing on the adductors and your external rotators, so again the glutes. We also like to do hamstring dynamic stretches by bending over with a straight leg, as well as glute dynamic stretches, stretching yourself into a figure 4 position. Walking lunges are also great, as well as high knees and kicking back, kicking your bums for the quads. After your workout, a proper cool down is just as important. Think of it as letting your cake cool down after baking. Cooling down helps your heart rate and your breathing return to normal. It also helps with the blood that was flowing to your muscles move away from the muscles back to the heart, so that those metabolites that were caused during exercise can then be released from the body. To cool down, don't just stop your running. Incorporate some light walking. Ensure that you allow your heart rate to come down gently as opposed to just stopping abruptly. You can also incorporate some static stretches if that is something you enjoy, or something like foam rolling as well. Next, and this hack is probably the second most popular one that menopausal runners waste their time on. I'm going to give you the most popular one a little bit later in this video. But first, the second most popular useless hack goes like this. Imagine your body as your garden. It needs the right care to thrive. Extreme calorie restriction, crash dieting, or fasting to lose weight quickly, essentially all overly restrictive dieting is like neglecting to water and fertilize your plants. It can deprive your body of essential nutrients that are needed for muscle repair, energy, and hormonal balance. This not only affects your running performance, but also your overall health. Much like how if you neglected your garden, your flowers would end up wilting and dying. There are 4 major pitfalls of overly restrictive dieting for runners. The first one is energy levels, because for the most part, when people have restrictive diets, they are restricting carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your main source of fuel or energy for everyday life, not just running. Your brain requires carbohydrates or glucose in order to function, and when we restrict this, your brain will then take that glycogen from other sources within the body, causing your energy levels to drop over time. The second one is muscle repair. As we exercise, our muscles break down, and so we want those muscle fibers or those muscles to resynthesize and get a little bit stronger. Very often in a restrictive diet, protein becomes another macronutrient that gets thrown to the wayside because it is something that creates you quite a full feeling. And protein is a key source in helping our muscles resynthesize. The muscle's composition is essentially protein, and so when we utilize protein as a fuel source or as post-training recovery, it helps our muscles resynthesize much quicker and much more effectively. By restricting your diet, your body essentially goes into a state of stress. When that happens, it's like the body goes into a survival mode. And so what it starts doing, if it's not getting all of the nutrients and energy that it needs, is it starts switching off, essentially, physiological systems that aren't in use or aren't in need. The first one of those is very often your reproductive system. And that is where most of this hormonal imbalance will come from. Because of this shutting down of the reproductive system, that'll have a knock-on effect on your endocrine system, which controls your hormones and how they are released. The fourth pitfall of restrictive dieting is an effect on our overall health. This can lead to nutrient deficiencies, a weakened immune function, as well as chronic fatigue. Instead of restrictive diets, you need to focus on getting a balanced view of your nutrition throughout the day. To visualize the third useless menopause hack, let's think of your body as a garden again. It requires sunlight, water, and nutrients to thrive. Similarly, not fueling your body properly, perhaps by skipping meals or training in a fasted state, is much like not watering your garden. During menopause, it's more important than ever to fuel your body correctly. But what a lot of females don't realize is that the timing of that is also really key. We do that by ensuring that we don't train in a fasted state. So we fuel our body before we exercise. If we are doing long runs or runs longer than an hour, we want to ensure that we fuel our body for and during that session. And again, ensuring that we get enough post-training recovery for all of that muscle resynthesis and recovery. Just as a well-watered garden blooms beautifully, a well-nourished body performs optimally. Now, the most common useless running and menopause hack I see most female runners doing, and this happens a lot, and it is a big no-no, is ignoring rest and recovery. Some runners push through fatigue, thinking of rest as a sign of weakness. But think of your body like a rechargeable battery. If you don't put it on charge, eventually it's just going to die. Adequate rest and recovery prevents burnout and decreases your risk of injury. More importantly, it allows you to get the benefit of all the exercise that you're doing. Menopausal women need more recovery time, so it's key that you prioritize this. Rest is like plugging in that battery to recharge overnight so that it's ready to go the next day. That's why in our training plans, we have 1 full day of rest a week so that you can recover from the sessions that you've done, get the benefit of the training that you've already done, and then secondly, to be ready for the next sessions ahead. Skipping strength training is another big mistake. I see a lot of peri and postmenopausal female runners making this mistake, and really, this becomes an absolute non-negotiable. What do I mean when I say strength training? We're talking specifically about resistance training. So pushing your body against some form of resistance. And that may start with something like body weight training. Think about it. If you're doing a push-up, you are pushing your own body weight against a resistance, gravity. We could then progress that to utilizing bands and perhaps some weights in the longer term as well. Strength training is so important for peri and postmenopausal women that I would even go so far as to say that if you are struggling to get enough strength sessions in your week, I would even take away one of your runs to ensure that you are consistently doing strength training. You are going to benefit so much more just from that one strength session as opposed to none at all. A question I get so often from females though is, well, I really don't actually want to look bulky if I do strength training. If I'm doing weights, am I going to get bulky? And the answer is no. In reality, you really have to do very heavy weights with very focused, strong nutrition in order to get as bulky as your biggest fear. So focus on functional strength, strength that is going to keep you injury-free for running and that is going to help your running performance. What does that look like? We want to use strength movements that focus on the prime movers specifically for running, right? So we're looking at our hamstrings, at our glutes, at our quads, in particular in our glutes, as well as our core and lower limb. This is what's going to help you keep you injury-free for running. But at the same time, if we're wanting to look at performance for health and health benefits, we're wanting to do a lot of upper body work as well as lower body resistance training. This is important because the resistance training is what is really going to look after our bones and help our bone health be maintained through menopause. It is also where we're going to be focusing on building lean muscle mass because we are losing that lean muscle mass consistently over time. Next, those exercise regimes that promise a quick fix. And I mean, let's face it, who wouldn't want a quick fix for losing that extra menopausal weight gain? But the truth is that training to your metabolism is not an effective way to lose weight during menopause. It's far more effective to utilize strength training or resistance training to increase your lean muscle mass and as a result, your basal metabolic rate. Imagine your basal metabolic rate like a campfire. Your muscles are like the coals or the embers that keep that fire burning. And as a result, because we lose lean muscle mass as we age, that coal or that fire of the basal metabolic rate also slowly dies down. You need to keep doing resistance training to keep building that lean muscle mass to ensure that that fire remains burning brightly. Don't fall for quick fixes. They're much like throwing wet logs on a fire, dampening the flame instead of feeding them. So, how can you tell the difference between a useless hack and a useful hack? Firstly, look for scientifically evidence-based strategies. Think of it like choosing a trusted map over a hastily drawn sketch when navigating a new city. Consult experts who are specialized in their respective fields and rather look for proven strategies as opposed to quick fixes. And remember that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If someone is selling you a one-time fixes all menopause concerns, they are probably lying. I'll be hosting a free online training where I'll show you how you can run better without necessarily training more or harder than you currently are, all while avoiding injury so that you can run better and faster through your 50s and 60s. Thanks for watching. I understand that managing menopause can be challenging, but if you avoid these useless hacks and rely on evidence-based strategies, you can maintain well-being and mental health and your running.